Good evening, everyone. Oh dear. I was expecting a bit more energy than that. First TED Salon. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your day. I'm a psychologist. I'm a performance coach. I'm very lucky. I get a chance to work with some very good sports teams and some very good business teams. And I guess what I do is I help people cultivate a mindset for success. So I always say for us to act differently, we need to think differently. For us to create some different behaviours for ourselves, or maybe people you manage and lead and work with, it's really about creating some different thinking more than anything else. So I guess what I do is I help people change their mind. Create new perspectives to allow them to create new opportunities and new possibilities. That's where I spend my time. And as a performance coach, I get asked one question quite a lot. I get asked, what is success? The amount of times I'm asked that, what is success? And I always say that success is about making the connection between two things previously unconnected. That's my definition of success. It's about making the connection between two things previously unconnected. Usually two ideas coming together to enable success to take place. One and one does make one. Two drops of water, place them together, get one drop of water. It's the same with ideas as well. So I believe that ideas are networks. That's what they are. Or maybe it's about two people coming together. Arguing, debating, sharing, allowing knowledge to flow, to connect ideas in a way which allow them to create something bigger and better than what they would create on their own. So it's all about connectivity for me. And I don't know about you guys, but the more that we've been asked to stay apart, the more I've realised how much we need to be together. Sharing, arguing, debating, allowing knowledge to flow, create new and different outcomes. I did a lot of work at Hewlett-Packard over the last couple of years or so. And Hewlett-Packard would often say, if Hewlett-Packard knew what Hewlett-Packard knows, we would be 3 times more successful. It's so true, isn't it, of any community, any cohort, any leadership team. I don't know how many people in the room. I'd say 30, 40 people in the room. Can you imagine if we could take what's inside your heads? All your knowledge, all your wisdom, all your contacts, all your expertise, all your opinions, philosophies and thinking. Place it all on one table and all have access to it. Imagine how successful all of us could become. Quite incredible. If knowledge could become a new asset class in any community, that would be amazing. I'm a firm believer that our only sustainable competitive advantage is to learn faster and better than your competitors. How do you learn faster and better than your competitors if you work in isolation? Surrounding yourself with your immediate connections, and that's all. Driving your own to-do list, defining success by the immediacy of your own tasks, it can't be done. I'm also a firm believer that companies no longer compete against companies. All the work I do, I'm convinced of it, cross-sectors. Companies no longer compete against companies, networks compete against networks. Only as strong as your network. There's an external narrative in there, and for you, but there's also an internal narrative in regard to your own thinking, not just the groups and communities that you play into. I think that you'll only be as successful as the relationships you can forge, networks that you can build, strategic alliances that you can partner with. But the more disparate and the more disconnected, the better. That's where new possibilities and new opportunities lie. What does the number 9 smell like? It's a great question, isn't it? That's a great question. What's the number 9 smell like? It's one of the best questions I've ever been asked. I was asked that by a 6-year-old. How good is that? That's one of the best questions ever. CEOs never ask interesting questions, do they? CEOs ask you, how do we increase margin? What do we do about volume? How do we increase income? 6-year-olds ask better questions. And the reason why is because we are divergent thinkers at that age. That's what we do. Divergent thinkers. We make a connection between two things, often unconnected. That's what we do. And we ask all sorts of questions based upon what does the number 9 smell like? What does your favourite colour feel like? Category errors. And what happens is that we become convergent thinkers. And there lies the issue. We'll ask a question like, what does the number 9 smell like? And we'll be told, hang on a minute, concentrate on the numbers. Do numbers at the moment. Let's stick to that. And so we become convergent thinkers. And you know what? What happens is that our careers are improved by it. We build our careers by making simple connections. Margins down, we need to do this. Income is down, and maybe we should be doing that. And businesses are built upon convergence in regard to thinking, and our careers are based upon it too. But who are the most successful people in society at the moment? People who occupy this space. Divergent thinkers, and people who make a connection between two things previously unconnected, or that other people aren't connected. This is where Airbnb and Uber and all that things come those sort of things come from. I've got a friend of mine who's earned his fortune in America. That's an absolute fortune. And invested in startups. That's what he does, invest in startups. I said to him at Christmas, would you invest in anything else again? He said, well, you know what? If you show me a business plan, it's the most ridiculous business plan in the world ever. The most stupid possible idea. I'll take a look at it. Got any sense whatsoever? Someone else is already doing it. I'm not that interested, actually. Almost proves that this is a space that we need to be occupying, particularly in a world which is disrupted. Particularly in a world where the assumptions that we've been living by have been challenged so readily. Unfortunately, many organizations still operate in this space here. This is the reason why PayPal wasn't invented by a bank. How fun is that? Banks had the networks, they had the history, they had the contacts, they had everything. Took someone outside the sector to give us as customers what we wanted. Future relevant, future literate, customer centric. So we need to think like the outsider. We're to obtain new opportunities and new possibilities. The immigrant will always see things that a citizen is blind to. Let's not pick on banks. What about Skype? Not invented by anyone in telecommunications. How funny is that? Took someone outside the sector to give us what we wanted, future relevant and future literate. What about Spotify? Not invented by anyone in the music industry. How fun is that? Gary Hamill says, I guess there's an entrepreneur somewhere in this world who is forging a bullet with your company name on it. Can't dodge that bullet, by the way. You do have to fire first. Companies are really good at being better. I see that all the time. They're good at being better. They're bad at being different. And you can't trust the future to anyone who champions the past. The future demands us to be different. We can almost argue now that companies that were born for success in the 20th century, by definition, are bred for failure in the 21st. It is not change which is catching organisations out, by the way. It is the pace of change which catches organisations out. So how do we remain future relevant and future literate in our careers? How do we remain future relevant and future literate in businesses that we're part of or lead? The only way we can do it is to try and be more disconnected in our thinking. To actually make a connection between two things that other people aren't connecting at the moment. How do we do it? How do we do it? Well, gamification is key. Organisations are doing this really well at the moment in a few sectors. Most aren't doing it well. It's the curse of incumbency. Thinking the answer is to pedal fast, thinking the answer is to continue doing what we're doing, but do it more efficiently. But gamification is key. I honestly believe that those who experiment the most will win. It's that simple. Better to be disrupted from the inside than from the outside. And the pace of change internally must match the pace of change externally. And a question we need to constantly ask ourselves in our careers, in our businesses, in the teams that we lead, is are we changing as fast as the world around us? And the only way we do that is to move outside of the mental tram lines that we all operate under, habitual thinking. So we need to break some of those rules. I often say if it ain't broke, you need to break it. Let's try and think differently in regard to the world in which we're inhabiting at the moment. An organisation who I work with who do this very well, and they ask themselves some really good questions. They'll say, if we were 3 times more expensive, how would we sell? Just want to play the game. It's just an experiment. Let's play the game. So we're 3 times more expensive. So how would we sell? As many ideas as you can in 10 minutes if this was the case. Playing the game of what if. We gave away all our products for free. How would we make money? What would we do? Let's have 10 minutes. Think about as many ideas as we can as new income streams. If we had no marketing budget, what would we do? If we had an unlimited marketing budget, what would we do? How do we give worse service? That's a game that they play, actually. And worse service. It's a really boring question to ask, how do we give good service? You get connected answers. We ask that question all the time. How do you give good service? Formulaic, template answers back as people make simple connections. Start to ask how do we give worse service, people actually use a different part of their brain. People smile, give all sorts of answers. It still gives you the right answer at the end of it. Who killed our business? If you are brave, you can play that. Who killed our business? Design a super competitor. Someone moved into our space and we couldn't compete with them. What would they look like? All our customers left us overnight because these guys existed. What would it look like? As soon as you start to design a super competitor, you move outside of the parameters which hold you in place. They have an astonishment day, the place that I work and consult on, an astonishment day. Most people will have an exit interview, that's what they'll have in the organisations in which they work at an exit interview. They have an astonishment day. You're grabbed in the first couple of weeks that you work there. They say, what astonishes you about this place? It's called tracking the astonishing. It's the sort of thing that you tell your best mate in the pub at the end of your first day. I never thought these guys would be so good at this or so bad at that. The whole point in all of this level of experimentation with our thinking is to move outside of those mental tram lines. For us to try and think differently and make different connections with our philosophies, thinking, ideas, and with our knowledge. Once we start to do that, maybe we can start to create some new outcomes in a world which is disrupted in the way in which it is. Your assumptions that our businesses are being built upon, assumptions your career has been built upon, assumptions this world has been built upon, have been roundly challenged. So the only way in which we can play into it, what's going to enable you to be successful in the next 12 months, is not what you know. It's about how you think about what you know. How you share it, contextualize it, argue it, throw it around the room, allow people to play with it, and then try and construct something from the wisdom of crowds, the opinion of many, particularly those with different opinions, different ideas, different knowledge and experience, to allow us to make sense of it as a whole. Not one person knows the answer at the moment, but together, maybe we do. I think there'll be two types of company in the future. I'm a big believer in Seth Godin's piece on this. Two types of company in the future, brave or dead. It's up to us as individuals to decide which sort of community, society, corporations that we want to build as we reimagine and repurpose the future to create something more sustainably successful. I thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you. I'll be delighted to talk to you all a little bit later. Thank you very much.